How do you like my garbage truck? This truck is in honor of Kamala and Joe Biden.
What is up, people of the internet? It is me, Real American, back again with a new video, and I hope everyone is having a great day. I'm certainly having a great day myself, and before we get into it, make sure to like, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell. Also consider joining the channel today for just $1 a month. Again, these are all great ways to support the content, but enough of the promotional stuff. Let's get into it because things are looking pretty good for Trump's campaign, and I would argue with only a couple days ago, it looks very likely that Trump's gonna win. Now, this doesn't mean get complacent. Do not get complacent whatsoever. Get out and vote. Get your friends out to vote. Get your family out to vote. Get whoever you can out to vote. Whether it's early in person, by mail, on election day, however you can, get everyone out to vote. But right now, Trump is the clear favorite to win. And it seems like the past week or so, he has gotten nothing but great news for his campaign. Just look at the polling. Right now, Trump is leading the popular vote by a half a point. Look at this. Just a week ago, it was still a small Harris lead. But now, Trump is leading in the RCP average. It's been for a couple days now. And it's looking likely that Trump is about to win the popular vote. And I know that sounds crazy because back in 2016 and 2020, he didn't win the popular vote. But right now, that's what the polls are showing. And you look at who's actually saying Trump's going to win. It's not just a single far-right pollster that has Trump up by 5 or whatever. No, there are 6 different pollsters right now on the RCP average that has Trump winning. And not just by a point. Of the 6 polls, 5 of them have Trump winning by 2. And the other one, the Wall Street Journal, they have Trump winning by 3. Yeah, you have 6 polls in the RCP average right now that has Trump up by 2 or 3 points. While the other polls has Harris up by only 1 or a tied popular vote. There's only one poll out there in the RCP average as of now that has Harris with any kind of lead. And that's Morning Compost. They have Harris up by 3. So in reality, the only outlier is actually Morning Compost. They're the only ones that show Harris with any kind of real lead. Because Harris plus 1, that's a statistical tie. That's a margin of error. And everyone else has the race either tied, or Trump plus 2, or Trump plus 3. It's every single poll. And even if it's Harris plus 1 in the popular vote, that's not enough for her to win. She needs to win the popular vote by a bare minimum, like 3 points. So even the Morning Compost poll, which has her up by 3, that may not be enough for her to win. Do you see the problem? Tuesday is election day. We're not in the middle of September anymore. This is late October, the final day of October. We are a couple days away from election day, and there's only one poll right now that has Harris barely, and I mean barely winning the Electoral College, if at all. Harris plus 3, and that's it. So you look at the national polls, it's a complete disaster for Harris. Even the ones that show her winning, it's not enough. And you go state by state, and right now, Trump wins the Electoral College. And I know a couple days ago it was 312, but Wisconsin and Michigan, they had some absolutely shitty polls drop the last week. Look at Wisconsin. Look at this. CNN out of nowhere dropped Harris plus 6. That is not a misquote. Not Harris plus 1. Not even Harris plus 2 or 3. No. According to CNN, they found Harris plus 6. When everyone else found the race either tied or a small Trump lead. So one single outlier is causing Wisconsin on the RCP average right now to flip. If it wasn't for CNN, this would be a Trump lead in Wisconsin, which is crazy because Trump has never led in Wisconsin ever. In 2020 and 2016, he was down by 5 to 6 points. And he won it in 2016 and barely lost it in 2020. Same thing in Michigan. Look at this. Susquehanna and Quinnipiac, they dropped Harris plus 4 and Harris plus 5. Everyone else found Trump plus 1, Trump plus 2. There was the Washington Post with Harris plus 1, but but that's defendable. Like, okay, if it's really Trump plus 1 or Trump plus 2, Harris plus 1 is possible. I get that. But 2 polls are causing Harris to barely win Michigan. And just like Wisconsin back in 2020 and 2016, especially in late October, early November, it was like Biden plus 10, Clinton plus 7, plus 8. And these same polls now, except 2 shitty ones, they're finding Trump with a small lead in Michigan. So even the state-by-state polling, you just look at who has Trump winning, and the consensus is actually Trump. Trump is actually the favorite according to the most pollsters out of Michigan, out of Wisconsin. Despite the average being Harris plus 0.4 and plus 0.2 in Wisconsin and Michigan, these states, you look at the individual pollsters, it's because of 1 or 2 very shit polls that have Harris with this magical lead. I mean, seriously, do people really believe that Harris is going to win Michigan by more than Biden won it by? Same thing in Wisconsin. Do you think Harris is going to win Wisconsin by like 5 or 6 points? Of course not. Those polls are bullshit. But fine, the polls aren't everything. And maybe the Harris campaign, maybe they have good news out of early voting. No, they don't. In fact, they have a complete disaster. Just look at Wisconsin. And I know with Wisconsin, we don't have voter registration. I get that. But right now, the areas that are more Republican, like Waukesha, Washington counties, these areas are like R plus 20, R plus 30. They are voting. While Democrat areas like Milwaukee, Madison, they're not showing up. They're not voting. I mean, just look at this graph here. Strong Republican areas are up way more than strong Democrat areas. Even lean Republican areas, they're voting at way higher rates than they were back in 2022. You look at this, 140%. While strong Democrat areas, that's Madison and Milwaukee, it's 85%. That's it. This is early voting in just Wisconsin. You can keep going, by the way. Look at Nevada. This is a complete disaster for Democrats in Nevada. Look at this. Republicans are up by 5%. They have 40,000 more votes than Democrats do. And I know it seems like things are starting to stagnate a little bit for Republicans in Nevada. But even then, it is a complete disaster for Democrats because in Nevada, they were banking on having a huge lead in early voting. That's a fact. Right now, they're not seeing that whatsoever. They are down by 44,000 votes. Could it get a little bit better? It looks like it's going to get slightly better. Like, instead of losing the early vote by like 45,000 votes, they may lose it by like 20,000 votes or something like that in terms of turnout. But the problem is, that's not enough. They were banking on having this huge lead in early voting in Nevada, but right now, they don't have that. In fact, they are getting crushed. They need to have like a net gain of 100,000 votes the next week or so just to be in a decent position. That's how bad the early voting looks out of Nevada. And that's why a lot of people are beginning to say that Trump could absolutely mop the floor with her in Nevada. It's getting that bad with the early vote. I mean, look at this, 50,000 votes, or 44,000 votes, excuse me, that separate Republicans and Democrats. And you can keep going. It's not just Nevada, not just Wisconsin, but Pennsylvania. Democrats have a firewall of only 387,000 votes. Just for context, Democrats just 2 weeks ago, they were coping and saying, well, if Democrats have a firewall of 500,000 votes, which, by the way, compared to 2020 and even 2022, that's nothing. It is a smaller firewall than 2022, a midterm. But either way, Democrats were claiming that if they had a firewall of 500,000 votes, they were going to win Pennsylvania, which is ludicrous to say. They needed 600,000 votes at the bare minimum. But not only are they not getting 600,000, they're not even going to crack 500,000 votes. They might crack 400,000, but that's it. That's not enough. They needed 500 to 600,000 votes in this firewall to be in an all-right position. Like, not great, but, in a position that they could still win in. Right now, if the trends continue, they're going to fall 200,000 votes short of the firewall that they've really needed. And even then, their bullshit goal of 500,000 votes, which is not enough, by the way. Either way, they're not even going to reach that goal. They're not going to reach the goal that they set that were so low that even some Democrats realize that, hey, that's less than 2022. But fine, let's just say by some miracle, all they needed was 500,000 votes in this firewall. The problem is, they're not even going to crack that. They may not even crack 400,000 votes, though I do think at the end of the day, they will. They are 100,000 votes short with only a couple days to go. Could they theoretically have a surge at the last millisecond? I guess. But guess what? We are in late October. Tomorrow is the first day of November. We are a couple days away from Election Day. We are not in the middle of October. We're not in September anymore. We are nearly in November. And as of now, the only surge we've seen was actually a Republican surge in the early vote. So I guess it's possible the Republicans, they collapse the next week, I guess. But right now, there are zero, and I mean zero indicators anywhere that Republicans are going to have this magical collapse in the early vote. And you could keep going. Look at North Carolina. Democrats went down yet again. Republicans are up by 50,000 votes. Hell, Democrats, they're losing to independents. Yeah, independent voters make up a larger share of the vote than Democrats do in the early vote. For those that don't know, Democrats still have a plurality voter registration advantage in North Carolina. Yet by some miracle, they are losing to independents. How is that even possible? Not even in 2022 did Republicans lose independents. Yet by some miracle, Democrats in North Carolina are losing not just to Republicans, but to independents as well. And for those that are saying, oh, well, maybe these independents, they are Democrat-leaning voters, they're not, because even Politico reported that the early vote numbers in North Carolina show the electorate is skewing an older and more white electorate. That's what Politico is reporting. They are saying, hey, the turnout in North Carolina, Georgia, and other states like that, they're so bad for Democrats that these voters, they're not African-American voters that are independent. No, these are old white voters that more than likely are going to vote for Trump. Now, some might vote for Harris, I get that, but if you're Harris, you obviously want black voters. You don't want the older white voters showing up way more than African-American voters, because guess what? Those voters are much more Republican. That's the problem. It's not just one state. It's not even just one metric. You look at early voting everywhere. You look at every demographic, whether it's voter registration, whether it's by race, education, anything. It's all a disaster for the Democrat Party. And the worst part is, I would argue, Trump has the momentum going into the final stretch. Would anyone with a straight face really argue that Harris has momentum? I don't think so. There's no data points out there to indicate that she has any kind of momentum other than collapsing. That's the only momentum she has, going down. Not going up, but going down. In fact, it's getting so bad for Democrats that the Trump campaign is now spending time, not in just Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, the actual swing states. They're now spending time in New Mexico and Virginia. That is not a misquote. They are holding rallies in both of those states. And they believe they actually have a chance in a place like New Hampshire, Minnesota. And I'm not saying they're going to win any of these states, but the fact that the private polling supposedly is looking so bad for Harris that they may actually have a chance in Virginia should tell you everything. Like, if Trump is competitive in Virginia and he's holding a rally there, do you really think Harris is going to win? I'm just being honest, because if Trump is holding rallies in Virginia while doing rallies, of course, in the other swing states, that's him expanding the map. That's not just him doing a random rally in Virginia. No, he's trying to expand the map, because it looks like they actually have a pathway in Virginia, in New Mexico, supposedly. But that's what Mark Halperin is reporting. And everything he said this cycle so far has been, relatively speaking, correct. Like 95% of what he said came out true a couple days later. And he's reporting that they believe they have a chance in these 4 states. And if he wins one of these 4, which is unlikely, but if he does, well, you go to the Electoral College map and Trump wins Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, and Nevada. Well, if he wins Virginia, he doesn't even need the Rust Belt. He just needs one of these states that Halpern was talking about, because if Harris wins Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, well, it doesn't matter. Trump is still the next president, and Trump, in this scenario, which is extremely unlikely, like, if Trump were to win states like Minnesota or Virginia, he's winning states like Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. But just for fun, let's just say Trump is competitive in these 4 states. Well, any of them would be enough for him to win. It would be enough for him to crack 270. And I know the map would look very cursed, but it's possible that Trump could maybe pull off the upset. And of course, that would mean states like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, they would be down the wire. They would be competitive. But the fact that we're even talking about Virginia, New Mexico, Minnesota in late October is not good for Harris whatsoever. And it seems like even the Harris campaign, they're starting to realize they might have a problem in Virginia, because supposedly they're pulling funds out of North Carolina and they're spending in Virginia. Now, I cannot confirm that, but that's what some people were reporting, and apparently that's real. So if they're actually spending money in Virginia, that's them playing defense, not them trying to pick off a state like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, places like North Carolina, Arizona. That means, more than likely, they're in deep trouble if they're defending places like Virginia. Now, I'm not saying for sure that Trump's going to win any of these states like Virginia, but the fact that we're even considering states like Virginia or New Mexico should tell you everything about the race. Hell, just look at how the campaigns have been acting the past month or so. The Harris campaign has been nothing but doom and gloom. They've been nothing but orange man bad. The joy is all gone. They've been hateful. All the above. It's been depressing watching this campaign. Meanwhile, look at the Trump campaign. Just a week ago, he was working at McDonald's, and now, at his rally at Green Bay, he pulled up in a garbage truck. You can't make this up. Who else could pull up in a garbage truck to a rally? And it actually helps him. I mean, this is just unbelievable. This campaign, they're having fun. And anytime Harris or Biden say anything dumb, like, oh, I worked at McDonald's 50 years ago, or oh, Trump supporters are all garbage, well, Trump's campaign, they have fun with it. It's like, okay, I'm going to pull up to a rally in a garbage truck. I'm going to work at McDonald's for a day. The Trump campaign is clearly having fun. Trump's having fun. It's clear that the Trump campaign has become the campaign of optimism, of hope, joy, whatever you want to call it. The Harris campaign, meanwhile, the past month or so, it's just been all doom and gloom, nothing positive, which should tell you everything. But we'll see what happens next Tuesday. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, hit that little bell, follow the social media accounts in the description down below, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.